Prime Minister, thank you so much indeed for your time. I suppose as a first question is, it's a big day for Africa. Africa Day means a lot to Africans, given the history we have as a continent. But for you, former Prime Minister, what does Africa Day mean?
Thank you for having me first. I would like to say this African Day is everything for Africans, because this is a day where Africans discuss about their fate, about their future, about their democracy, about their economic growth and development, about their prosperity. So I think this is a very great day for Africans.
So it's a day of reflection, Prime Minister. But also it's a day to take stock, to look at the progress, to look at some points where we haven't really made some, good progress as it were as the continent. So it's a day in essence for us to scrutinize ourselves as Africans. So you'll be speaking, during this particular day. So what's going to be the key message?
The topic which President Mbeki and the foundation has designed from their visionary mind is to talk about the national question and its implication on peace and democracy. You see, Africa is multinational, and African countries are also, in most cases, are not homogeneous. They are multinational. So the national question has been there for several years in Africa, and if you don't resolve this national question, it continues on, creating problem of peace and democratization. Of course, peace and democracy by itself helps the national question to be addressed, but without addressing the national question itself, you cannot also bring peace and democracy to sustain. So I think this is an egg and chicken kind of thing, but we have to come directly and discuss on the national question and its implication on peace and democracy in Africa. Simply because this topic, even the intellectual community are shying away. And I'm glad that our respected leader, Thabo Mbeki, has brought this agenda to the forefront, that it becomes a discussion point for the African Day. And you have to hold the bull on the horn. So I think you have to dare to discuss about this, because there are some who say there is no national question, for say, and denying that there are national questions in Africa. There are some who take this to the extreme and become, radical ethno-nationalists, which is also distracting the progress in Africa. So I think in order to come in a balance, that there is a national question, but we have to address it in a very democratic, peaceful, and in a very stable manner. We need this kind of forum, and I think the African Day can resolve that.
And also, Prime Minister, we've seen a number of African countries going through elections, and more often than not, it's always said that you need peace and stability for development to thrive. So I would imagine it's also key in that context of making sure that for any African state to be able to realize its potential, there must be peace and stability so that you're able to bear the fruits.
I think so. I mean, without peace and stability, you cannot mobilize your social capital. And I think because of poverty, our social capital is dwindling, and if you don't mobilize the people and make them at the center of each and every work we are doing in Africa for democratizing our continent, for accelerated, shared, inclusive growth and development to mushroom in these countries and African continent at large, we need peace and democracy. And especially peace is a dividend that we have to work on. So I think there is no question about peace and democracy for African prosperity.
And just Prime Minister, for those Africans, whether you look at Juba in South Sudan or North Kivu in the DRC. For those Africans where peace is still a major issue, what would the Africa Day mean to them? Because I would imagine it's more than just the diplomatic functions. It's more than just, the gala dinners, but it's about them achieving peace, and so that they can see that Africa Day really means a lot to them.
If you see, the real question in South Sudan was to have an independent state and build their nation as South Sudan. But they started pitting each other into ethnic lines, like the Nuer and the Dinka. But that wasn't true. The whole issue is, what do the people of South Sudan want has not come into forefront.